Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Tom Walton, and today I am joined by Jake Collier of several different companies, one of which being One Outdoors, Restoration Outdoors, and soon to be sportfishing.com. So we'll get into all those here shortly, but just quick background on Jake. Jake grew up on the water in Western Washington, but his close proximity to the water and childhood curiosity drew him into fishing at an early age. He learned a ton from his neighbor, Tom, not me, who took him under his wing. And Jake still lives in northwestern Washington, where he enjoys hunting, fishing, and various outdoor pursuits. Of those three companies we mentioned, One Outdoors is a hunting and fishing trip booking company. So I don't know if company or agency be the right word, but essentially a booking agency for hunting and fishing trips around the world. Restoration Outdoors, a 501c3 nonprofit specializing in the outdoors, or using the outdoors to heal trauma. And that is putting it probably just in very basic terms. Looking forward to Jake expanding on that. And then coming soon, sportfishing.com, which seems to probably be for all things sport fishing. Jake is married with 2 daughters and has a 3rd kiddo on the way, and he's a fellow Christ follower. Jake, thank you so much for joining me on the show today, man. I'm absolutely excited. We got introduced through our mutual friend, Nate Harder, who runs Protector's Peak. Folks, if you don't remember what Protector's Peak is, which I think you would if you've listened to even the last couple episodes, but Protector's Peak, you can learn all about it on a previous episode that I did with Nate, where we discuss all things Protector's Peak and what we got going on. But kind of in that nonprofit realm is how Jake and I got introduced. So again, Jake, thanks for your time. Welcome to the show, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, Nate, this is one of my favorite parts about the industry. It's just good people connecting other people. And that was a really special connection. Definitely check that episode out. I actually haven't listened to it, Tom, but I can guarantee it's good because Nate's awesome. So I'm sure there was a lot of value about Protector's Peak and everything they're doing there. So that was awesome, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do think, not because of anything I did, but I think it's one of the better episodes just because Nate did a really good job. He's passionate about what he's doing with Protector's Peak, and I'm passionate about what's happening at Protector's Peak. We're going to have a great year in 26 retreat season is going to be awesome. So, folks, if you haven't, go back, listen to that episode, and I think you guys won't regret it. It's a pretty good show, pretty moving stuff. But back on to Jake, who is here now. So, Jake, why don't you just go ahead and dive right in, man, and just give us a little bit more in depth into your journey in the outdoors and how you got where you are now, because you got a lot going on, man.
Yeah, it's busy, but I love it. You might have to we'll come back to some of this stuff, pull some stuff out later, but yeah, the kind of the timeline of events. So grew up on the water in Bellevue, Washington. We lived on a little canal, and actually makes me think of Huck Finn. So one of the things that got me into the outdoors when I was younger is just seeing the water and always wondering what was underneath. And so I had a next door neighbor, Tom, who loved fishing. And so he actually taught me how to tie my first fishing knot. And, I look back on those days and I'm really grateful for, him taking the time to show me not just the what and driving curiosity, but also the how, and really working through different knots and how to look for where bass are going to be holding and things like that. So big blessing growing up on the water and being able to take advantage of some of that curiosity. Played baseball for a lot of my life. So loved fishing, loved the outdoors, had a small taste of hunting when I was younger, did some pheasant hunting in eastern Washington and some duck hunting over there. And, started with a Red Ryder BB gun in the cornfields I think there's a lot of hunters out there who started with the Red Ryder BB gun somewhere in their journey. But so same to me for that. But baseball took up a big, big part of my life. So, I played since I could pick up a ball, I played all the way through college, looked at playing some post-college baseball as well, but decided to jump into business, start a family. I was engaged when I was wrapping up college. So really thinking about what I wanted in life and what, maybe not even necessarily what I wanted, but what was best as well. Hard decisions that you have to make sometimes, but loved baseball, loved the relationships near and dear to my heart today, that I have from playing the game. But after college, I went to a small school in Tennessee. It's called Cumberland University. And I valued time there so much. Moving back to Washington State was hard, actually. Almost didn't want to come back because that small town vibe was really fitting. So jumped into a sales role after college with a company called Paychecks. And I enjoyed the business side. I learned really quickly after being in the real world, so to speak, after ball and school, that I enjoyed what makes a business, what moves the needle for a business, all the components, but more than anything, the relationships and the building of the business. I was always interested in the startup phase, how to build and create. So, you referenced a couple companies. Here we are. I like to do that. So joined a team of some guys that were smarter than me for a company called Field Notes, co-founded a product in the real estate software space. And that product has since expanded to a couple other verticals, but, hit a roadblock at one point in the journey. We lost quite a few family members on my wife's side in a very short period of time. And for me, it was a real, death has a funny way of bringing people back to life, so to speak, and that forces you to look at how you live and what decisions you're making. And so for me, that was one of them. And I always knew when I was a little boy, fishing in that canal that I wanted to come back to the outdoors somehow and work in that arena. And I stayed curious. I fished through college ball and everything and hunted when I could. But anyway, so after we lost some family members, that was a turning point for me that said, hey, let's jump and let's focus on the things that you care most about. And that's, God, family, and then the outdoors. So here we are today. Started One Outdoors. The brand for One Outdoors more or less is a lifestyle brand. However, all the things we're building behind the scenes on that are frankly yet to come. Right now, we have a booking component to that business, which is fun and I really enjoy. We had a family friend who actually used to do that for Bass Pro, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's a nice way to tie in a network of people who love adventure, love gear. So that's kind of what the One Outdoors brand represents is booking trips, going on adventures, and gear coming in the future. The heart of the business is around trauma healing, and that's where Restoration Outdoors comes into play. So a mentor of mine, John Claus, he's actually my uncle too. He's been in the nonprofit space for over 30 years. It's got to be almost 40 years now. Big organization called World Vision, which there's a lot of people who know what World Vision is. Some don't. But anyways, he had a good conversation with me one day and said, I know you want to start a nonprofit, but I think you should also start a for-profit, and that's how you should sustain the nonprofit. And so I actually wanted to go into business, just going directly into the nonprofit sector and doing that work, that servantry-like work first, but really felt convicted to also build the for-profit. So taking some of those skill sets in the software startups, some of those things, building One Outdoors, but then the heartbeat of the business really being Restoration Outdoors. So 10% of everything that we do at One Outdoors goes to Restoration Outdoors. And I really do enjoy that work the most out of anything. And right now we have a veterans and first responders group program called Brave Together. We've worked with sex trafficking victims, teaching gals how to fish. We've worked with young kids, youth. We've worked with pastors, bringing pastors up to Alaska to do some fishing. So trauma healing, we all have different types of trauma, but there's a consistent for me, and I know that the outdoors is a healthy mechanism to help people heal, recover, process their thoughts, and sometimes even talk about what they've been through. So it's a safe space. It's a humbling space too. Creation has a funny way of humbling us. So, and then sportfishing.com that's a new thing. Actually, I had one of the family members that passed during that stint I'm referring back to actually owned that domain from back in the .com boom, and coincidentally, they just held on to it, and um, pretty special story. But that domain name was given to me in good faith as the estate. It was passed down. So sportfishing.com is something that we're working on building too. These things I see as ways to create an environment that people can get outside, have fun, get the gear they need. And for me, at a personal level, build something and be a part of something I'm genuinely interested in, provide for my family, and honor God through doing all of that.
Man, show over. No, that's awesome, man. It's a lot in a good way. It's I mean, just that statement right there, I feel like you could end a discussion on, because what else you need to say, man? Like doing what you love and honoring God, doing it. I think that's something that like most Christians should strive to do, and I think it's easy to forget about, man. It's so easy just to remember to honor ourselves and honor our work and give ourselves credit. And I feel like I'm always reminding myself, like when I have an upswing on the podcast, or something good happens at my day job, or I'm successful in the woods with whatever I'm pursuing, just remembering like, hey, I mean, yes, I might have physically been the one to do this, but like the strength, the opportunity, and the blessing all comes from God, man. And just to remember to give him the credit, because
That's right.
that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give him the credit. But I love it, man. You have built and are building quite a I don't even know how to put it. There's a word, but it's like
Don't say empire, because those fall.
all right, man. So an empire that doesn't fall, but you're building quite an array of stuff here. And one thing I noticed, just I think the three things that you've mentioned is you're diversifying, what seems to be something that business owners like to do and people in finance like to do. That stands out. But let's just back up to One Outdoors and just kind of start from the beginning a little bit. Now that we know where you come from and why you started things, especially in the light that you started One Outdoors because you wanted to start Restoration Outdoors, but just with One Outdoors, man, like what, just more in depth on what gave you the idea to do like, booking stuff. You kind of mentioned that you had a buddy or a family member that had done bookings for Bass Pro, because I have limited experience with booking agents. I briefly tried to work with a couple when I had I think I told you on offline that I briefly owned an outfitting business for all of like 6 months.
Yeah.
But like it was really difficult to get the booking agents to be like, yeah, we'll put you on the website. I mean, because their name is on the line, right? They're putting their name on your trip. Yeah. So just give us what got you into specifically the booking trips type of thing, man. Like why that part of the outdoor industry, and how have you done it?
So backing up, just the relationships and the people within our networks, we dig into that, and there's always more there than what we can see on the surface. And there was a gentleman who, like I was saying before, he used to do that for Bass Pro, and he just said, hey, if you want to give this thing a try, you can. And I'm kind of reshaping the term booking agent. We're really not booking agents. What we're actually doing is we're generating leads and traffic and everything that everyone else is doing, but we're always working for a competitive advantage on that. So we build the relationship with the person that's interested in traveling somewhere, and that takes time. So I think there's a lot of, companies out there that do this, that outsource that type of work, and they really fail and they struggle. And so I think that separates us. We're talking, we can speak the language, kind of walk the walk, so to speak, on these adventures. And so the booking side, in a nutshell, that's really about the relationships. These are the types of people that we want to work with and work around, are folks who love adventure. They want to see different parts of the world, or they just want to go elk hunting in Montana or Wyoming or wherever. They want to go rafting on a big river, or fly fishing in Yellowstone, or get their kids out on a trip. So my favorite trips actually to be a part of is always the ones where it's a parent blessing the kid with like a high school graduation trip somewhere, taking them fishing, or, there's lots of cool stuff out there. So yeah, in a nutshell, the booking component, I can't even say it's something that I really wanted to do. Didn't really see it as a business channel initially, but we had the right relationship with the right experience to kind of coach us on that. And so we saw that as a lane when we were starting out. We've only been around for a few years now, so we're very much still a young company in the grand scheme of things. And so we just went after it in that lane and just building relationships out of the channels that we have access to and expanding from there.
That's pretty cool, man. The first bear hunt that I guided here in North Idaho was actually a mother and a father who brought their 18-year-old daughter to Idaho. She wanted to do a bear hunt for her high school graduation present. And so that was, like I said, that was my first group of clients. That was pretty cool. Good people. They'd been return clients to the fella that we bought the outfitting business from. But yeah, I agree, man. I really enjoy those trips where it's family. I've had a couple father and son pairs, and then on the river, I love taking out people bringing their kids and stuff on the river, and it's always a good experience. The the outdoors and family connections is just, I mean, what greater memories can you make than maybe watching your kid get a first animal, or helping your kid catch a fish, or fishing in a special, beautiful spot. I know some of the best memories that I have with my dad are, all based in the outdoors for the most part.
Yeah, man. The memories are endless. And what's funny too is some of my best memories are, things that you would never think about, like catching the big fish or shooting a nice buck or whatever. There's one that even comes to my mind is we're camping. We were actually, my fiance at the time, we were traveling across country after I got done playing ball. And my sister and her husband came out to meet us in Texas. And we actually traveled east first and did the coast to coast trip back. But there was one campsite we found. I think we were, where were we? In New Hampshire or somewhere over there, but just bears everywhere, right? And this campsite was pristine at the lake. We were the only ones there, and it was absolutely beautiful. Just the water was glass. I mean, just lush green. Just what you'd think of in like a kid's picture perfect storybook of a campsite, And it says, don't leave food out because there's bears around. It's like, we've all heard that. We've seen it a million times, but freaked my sister out so much that she couldn't camp there. So we had to move sites, and we ended up finding this super janky, I don't even know if it was a KOA. I think it was like, I don't know. You camped on the backside of this junkyard, and being in the outdoors, we all know bears are junk eaters, man. And I'm like, this is the worst place that we could go if you don't want to see bears. And sure enough, they set up their tent on the backside of this river, and there are literally claw marks coming down the tree right behind my sister's tent. I'm just thinking, I look at my brother-in-law and I'm like, you see that? Like, do you see? And he's like, puts his hands up. I'm like, I don't know. Well, here we go. So it's just, those are the stories though that you remember. It's all the funny nuances. And then there's a whole nother side of it where it's like the absolute struggles, torrential downpours, you're freezing, like all the challenges and the things that you have to overcome. And that just, builds you to be a stronger, better human. So yeah, man, I love it. This is a fun arena to be in.
Absolutely, man. So, I mean, like, just on that whole trying to, reinvent the term booking agent. I mean, it's not like it's just kind of puts it in a context. Like, booking agent just doesn't do justice to what it is that you're trying to do for your clients, right? You're trying to, book these memories essentially, right? You're helping them to get into a position to create memories that'll last a lifetime for them, their families, if they're lucky, really for their kids, right? That their kids will be able to take and share with their kids, and so on and so on. I mean, generational memories is what One Outdoors is creating. And I think that's a really good reason right there, is like why you're like, I don't really like, saying booking agent, right? Because it just dumbs it down to, it just doesn't do it justice for what you're doing.
Personally resonated with me, but like there's the technical aspect of the job where it's like you're bringing this person from this spot to transacting over here, but it's like that's all part of it. But when you get to be a little snippet on the wall of somebody else's awesome experience like that, that's a really cool part of the job. And then, getting to meet other guides and outfitters and have those partners and get to know them and their operations, that's really special too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different components to that.
Hey, folks, just wanted to take a quick break from the show to talk about my most recent partnership with a good friend of mine, Jake Collier, and his company, One Outdoors. One Outdoors provides a trusted place to purchase outdoor experiences, gear, and services. They aim to positively impact people and the environment by donating 10% of all of their net profits to Restoration Outdoors, a nonprofit, which in turn invests in mental health and conservation. One Outdoors offers trips around the globe, whether you're interested in hunting in Africa or fishing in Alaska, Patagonia, and more. They can customize your outdoor experiences and beyond just hunting and fishing to whitewater rafting. You name it, folks. If you can dream it up in the outdoors, One Outdoors can help make that dream come true. And I'm proud to be partnering with them, consulting on trips and hunts. So if you're interested in booking a trip of a lifetime with One Outdoors, you can reach me or reach out to me at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com, or you can contact me directly through Instagram, Facebook, you name it. One Outdoors, folks. Really excited to be working with these guys. So thank you very much for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. Well, talk to me a little bit more about that too. I mean, I don't know how many people like you are out there saying, when I grow up, I want to be a booking agent, just to go back to that term, right? But
Sure.
how do you, if someone is out there thinking that, hey man, like booking people's dream hunts and fishing trips and outdoor experiences is something that I could get into, how would somebody start, man? What did you do in the beginning when you decided this is what you were going to do?
That's a good question. Well, I think innately, when we have a good experience doing something, we either want to tell people about it or share it, unless it's like your secret elk hunting spot, then that stuff's locked in a jar somewhere. I think just at the surface level, wanting to share those experiences with people. We get X amount of time on Earth. What do you want to do with that time? Like, I want to see some epic stuff. I want to meet some awesome people, try different foods. So, if somebody wants to get involved in that space, I would say go do it first and foremost, to some degree, to some level, and experience a little bit of that, being uncomfortable, being in a foreign country, not really knowing how you're going to get from point A to point B, or, getting sick somewhere and not having modern medicine to help you. So you really have to be thoughtful in how you use your body and things like, I'm not saying go through all the struggles and stuff, because at some point you just have to do it too. But, experience done is experience gained. So I would say just go look for some experiences that you want to do that might provide you with some new perspective, and go for it.
Awesome, man. And as far as connecting to outfitters, is it like you cold call outfitters, look some up, or I mean, what is it? How do you choose what outfitters that you're going to contact or try to work with, and how do you kind of get them on board with what you're doing?
So we actually have there's kind of two things we're doing right now. Like, what you see online today is not going to be what you see online for One Outdoors in 6 months, and that's part of us being a young company and evolving and so forth. But we're moving towards a more regional approach, having resources towards a regional approach. But yeah, I think there's the guides and the outfitters who want to market themselves, and they want as much exposure as possible, and that's great, but we're also really interested in the guides and the outfitters who don't necessarily need that, but they offer something that's really unique and valuable to somebody wanting a unique and valuable experience. Not that something out of the box isn't. That can be great, but we're very much looking forward to, and have been the last couple of years, working with partners where we can actually help be a part of creating something new and unique. There's times we'll bring in a musician, or, tribal dancers, or, just a unique touch to an experience that provides a cultural element, or an aspect that you might not get if you just book a trip, online somewhere. And that all really comes down to the relationships behind the scenes with us and the people on our team, and understanding what people want and building that relationship. Because sometimes people do just want out of the box. They just want to go to a location and they want to fish. So just kind of reading the room on that. But that's our favorite stuff, is those unique experiences, those custom experiences. We're working on quite a few of those right now.
Awesome. So benefits to using your services would be, potentially a more custom experience, and probably you have vetted the outfitters and guides that you're booking for, right? So, I mean, it's really, really common horror story in the outfitting industry, right? Or on the client end of things, like that was the worst trip I've ever been on. The outfitter didn't know what they were doing. They weren't prepared. The lodging wasn't great. The, mule was too bumpy on the mountain, whatever, like their thing was, right? But like, I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of bad stories. We didn't see anything. I just had a couple buddies that went on a guided elk and whitetail deer hunt here in North Idaho.
Yeah.
Couple of older gentlemen, and they both got their elk, and they were all right elk. But when you're paying over 10 grand for a hunt, I mean,
Right.
the animals are the animals. They're wild animals. You can't control them. But you would kind of think like, man, I would love to see you guys get some like more trophy class animals. But that's not even like the big deal of it. The big deal was there were trophy class animals to be had. It was kind of on a big private ranches. But there was some famous, like more famous influencer type folks in hunt camp.
Oh yeah.
And so they got first dibs on all the good animals, right? And so that soured the experience for my buddies. And then after they got their elk down, it kind of warmed up, and they had to hang the elk outside, and the outfitter said, "Hey, I know you guys wanted to hunt whitetails, but you need to get your meat out of here. So you can take your meat 3 hours back to town and come back," or whatever. And it ended up being that they had to leave because there was nowhere for them to keep the elk meat from spoiling.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, dude, you've been an outfitter for how long, and you don't have a plan on keeping care of meat in camp?
Yeah.
So that to me, and I mean, and they lost money on not getting to do whitetail hunts, right? So
Yeah.
you hear those kinds of stories in the industry quite often, and it can probably bring people some trepidation when it comes to booking an outfitted hunt.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we've heard a lot of that. Definitely, I've seen so many horror stories posted on social media just like that. I mean, there's a couple different components here. And this goes back to just the mindset of being a person who loves adventure. But first and foremost, you have to be agile on any trip or any experience that you do. You have to use your mind. You have to be creative, because you're going to be in situations where you might not have a cooler. You might not have service. You might not have, a nice toilet to use, whatever, right? And those are just, there's different types of clients and profile of people that we work with. There's folks that want the luxury lodge, and they want to, be pampered at the spa and the sauna while they're looking at hippos in the river. Literally was just in Africa at a place that you could see hippos and giraffes across the river while you're sitting in the infinity pool. The infinity pool is right in front of the sauna and the spa. It's like, that's great. That's a very different type of trip and expectation than like a couple bros going to go mule deer hunting and, wherever. So it's just different mindset. So I always get a pulse check on the mindset of the clientele first and foremost, and then try and present tailored experiences around what I think they're going to be able to handle, not necessarily what even they, really want sometimes. And I'll poke holes in that to see where they sit on that spectrum. But yeah, I think the vetting process is huge. Like I'd mentioned, like Africa, it's not a place that I've always looked at. Africa and said, I want to go there, but I've never really had a reason to go there until starting this company and doing that. But I mean, the whole reason we went to Africa was to make sure that what we present to our clients and our audience is going to line up with what we're talking about. And so that's one of the things that we're doing now, is stepping into this network of trips and things that we've had access to, filtering through that and seeing where the noise sits, and then also, creating some more custom experiences, and then also just recommending some out of the box ones that are really great. So I don't know if that really, addresses what you were saying, but I think there's the mindset of the person going on the adventure and then the expectation that they can really have for that trip. And we do our absolute best to make sure that both match.
That's excellent. And I think it does absolutely speak to what I was talking about. I've heard it said several times, and I've repeated this. It's not, I didn't come up with this, but I would tell people when they ask me, either as an outfitter or just in general, people asking about coming to Idaho to hunt. I get people ask me all the time, and I just tell them, like, no one, outfitters included, can guarantee an animal, right? I mean, it's actually illegal for an outfitter to guarantee you an animal here in Idaho. I don't know if that's a national thing or just a state thing, but can't guarantee you an animal. They're wildlife. They're going to do what they're going to do. So just managing your expectations, and the way you're ready is when you're coming out west to Idaho, Washington, Montana, Alaska, whatever state it is that you're going to spend hard-earned money to go to, when you're coming here with the mindset that it's not about bringing home a trophy, it's about bringing home the memories, right? That you're coming out here for an experience, to experience the wilderness, the mountains, the scenery, the people, all of those things. And then a trophy would be icing on that already awesome cake. That's when you're ready to spend the money to come out west, because you might leave without getting your animal. That's just the reality of it, and some outfitters have higher success rates, private land or good areas, whatever it might be, better experience guides, whatever, but that is the truth of it. And even if you're not getting a guided hunt, if you're going to come do it on DIY, it's expensive for a fella to come hunt in Idaho. It's expensive to go hunt in Alaska, and you need to just be ready to appreciate the experience.
Yep. Nope. I couldn't agree more. And you see misalignment with expectations when folks do talk about guaranteeing animals and all sorts. I've seen all sorts of stuff like that. But if you do it enough and you enjoy the pursuit, you really enjoy being out there in creation. You just do it enough, and you're going to run into some really cool stuff. Like, that's truth. My favorite all-time hunts was just, I hosted a couple baseball buddies in town from Tennessee, and two brothers, and we happened to run into two nice bucks. I think they were just migrator bucks moving through. And this was in Eastern Washington, and they both got bucks in, I think it was a 5-day hunt, and it was day 2 and day 4 that they got their deer. And I mean, 2 deer, Eastern Washington, like 2 decent deer in that period of time. That was great, man. We felt so lucky to run into one, So it's just those types of memories, though, that make the pursuit worth it. And I mean, there's guys and gals that are getting way back there now. They're serious hunters, and I love it. I think that's great. And most of those folks aren't, if they're booking hunts that are hard, because they're more interested in the challenge than they are the trophy. And that's something that I've seen, and I mean, I respect that a lot. And then, like going back to just the different profiles of folks who book trips and don't, and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a mixed bag out there.
Yeah, I mean, and managing client expectations, managing outfitters, and that's a lot. But I think it's awesome. I really like what you're doing with One Outdoors. Before we move on from that, just real quick, give us a very basic general rundown of the types of experiences that somebody can book on One Outdoors and how to go about doing that.
Yeah, pretty much anything fishing or hunting right now. That's what's presented on the website. However, we are booking rafting trips, family trips. We've been moving pretty quick, so a lot of what we're doing is actually referred through family and friends networks and strategic partner companies, things like that, just folks that we have industry relationships with. So we've done essentially no marketing lead generation type activities yet. A lot of it is just really organic stuff, but yeah, international hunts this next year, I think we're going to add, 3 or 4 to the list. And, but yeah, I mean, it ranges from everything. Like if you want to do an African hunt and you want to do photo safari, we can mix both together. to if you want to go fishing in Puerto Vallarta, or, you know, you want to go up Canada and go after, like, it's just all over. I could be here all day on the amount of stuff that we have access to. But I would say certainly don't take what you see on our site as the network, so to speak. It goes way beyond that. And it's the fun part. We enjoy putting something together that is a little more custom. We've done corporate groups. You know, Patagonia is awesome. There's a couple different lodges out there. We've done a group of 20 folks corporate, you know, oil industry folks that wanted to go fly fishing, red stag hunting, horseback riding, wine tasting. And then we've done, you know, a father-son combo that wanted to go fishing up in Canada for, what are they going for? Like muskie or something. I can't remember, but it's just, you know, the spectrum is big right now. So yeah, all over the map.
Awesome, man. So One Outdoors is, like you said, you started that because your ultimate goal was to be able to support a nonprofit, which is what you wanted to start in the first place. And that
Right.
nonprofit is Restoration Outdoors. So just getting into that, like I've got the website pulled off. Restoration-outdoors.org is what I have in my URL bar up there.
You've got it.
Yep. And it's providing opportunities to heal through recreational therapy and outdoor adventure, man. So give us the deep dive into Restoration Outdoors and what you guys are doing over there.
Sure. So, you know, the outdoors is a safe space for people to go, and we want to help create the experience for folks to be able to leverage the outdoors to heal. And so it means different things to different groups. So to, you know, our Brave Together program, it means finding a setting where these veterans and first responders can come in, and they've got a licensed therapeutic support along with peer support, and they're doing eye movement, behavior, all kinds of breathing exercises, all kinds of different stuff. But for them, it's doing that in a setting that provides comfortability, also curiosity. And so we've got a spot at a lake. You can watch eagles fly around. There's fishing rods, there's kayaks. Just having access to the outdoors is good for that. And then there's other times where it's like, you know, a pastoral retreat in Alaska. The setting is, oh, you're fishing. Like every day you're hitting the Kenai River, you're fishing, but you're driving down to Homer, and then you're going to go out for halibut, you know. So there's different types of restoration experiences, but it's not always ours either. A lot of it too is just being willing to do something new. There was about almost 3 years back now, but I met with a group of women at a lake with another organization who they work with sex trafficking victims. And so I just went out and taught them how to fish. We were tying fishing knots just like someone taught me, and I was hearing stories of, you know, what they've been through, their father teaching them to fish when they were little. And those were some of the best memories. And, you know, it wasn't that I picked that space. You know, that organization picked that space, but it's common ground where we can meet. We're in creation. There's an open sky. You're looking at birds, you're looking at fish, the water. There's just an ease and a calm that comes with that sometimes. So it's a safe space to meet people where they're at sometimes, but, yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So
Cool.
the sex trafficking, you said that was out of Eastern Washington?
Nope. Western. It's an
was it?
organization in West. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We have,
There's
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say there's a gentleman that I work with actually locally here where we live. He's got a good organization. It's called Engedi Refuge, if you want to check it
Okay.
out. Aaron's a great guy, and yeah, just invited us out to kind of do some fishing for the day, and it was awesome. But
That's fantastic. Yeah, we have
yeah.
a similar organization out here called Helping Captives Ministries. And the fellow that started that, his family founded Union Gospel Mission, and he grew up and decided he wanted to follow suit in his own ministry. And yeah, same thing. He helps sex traffic victims and their kids if there are kids involved with those victims. They do amazing work, and he's growing, and it's pretty cool, man. That's just an overlooked issue in our society. It seems like no matter how much people try to spread light on it, it's such an evil force that, like, evil just keeps shoving that back down into the background. It just, we can't get it enough attention on it. So, good for
It
those
is, man.
folks, man.
It's yeah, that topic goes real. It goes to depths that we don't even know. But even in our first responders group, you know, working with folks who also have to deal with, yeah, I hesitate to even say it on your podcast, but like they'll find a young girl in the trunk of a car.
Hmm.
It's like these are the things that don't always make the news, but it's the underbelly of one of the underbellies of society. And so, yeah, man, it's rough stuff there.
Yeah. I know a couple of uh, fellow law enforcement officers from around the country that have had experiences like that, finding kids in cars, finding
Mhm.
kids tied up in closets.
Yeah.
Is a reality. It needs to be talked about, and it's tough. It is tough. Maybe we'll have to have one of those guys on the podcast one of these days and kind of go outside of just the outdoors side of it and bring light to that, because it's a worthy topic, and those victims deserve to be talked about.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yep. And it's the why, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, there's a lot of fun stuff we do, but there's things that pull at our heart, and it's part of our why. So I don't mind talking about it, but it just depends on how far you want to go on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, we could go super deep into it, but we are here to kind of talk about your businesses and the nonprofit. But as a, on a rabbit hole sense, that's an important one.
Yep.
One thing that I think I really appreciate what you're doing at Restoration Outdoors, and just from my perspective, having been involved in veterans organizations, Protectors Peak, where we focus very heavily on law enforcement, but also veterans, firefighters. We've done pastoral retreats as well. Is that you guys aren't focused necessarily on a niche group of people. And I think that's important because even as a first responder, sometimes it's more, just typical human nature. Like, I'm the one that's experiencing the trauma. Look at my life. This is really hard. I'm in this dark place. But trauma is everybody's, man. Everybody at some point is going to experience some trauma. Yes, first responders and veterans experience it on a more frequent scale, right? But most traumatic incidents that I respond to that are traumatic for me are also traumatic for the person that I'm responding to help or, deal with in whatever way, shape, or form. But
Yep.
there's trauma going on that's not just involving me when I show up to that scene, right? That family on that domestic violence is experiencing trauma. Those children are experiencing trauma. The abused spouse is experiencing trauma, right? So
That's
trauma
right.
belongs to everybody, not just first responders. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing in being that you're here for everybody, right? The outdoors belongs to everyone, not just veterans, not just first responders. So I really
You got it.
like that.
Yep. Or actually, it's kind of it's real subtle, but part of how when we were coming up with the name One Outdoors, same uncle who is a mentor, we're working on the nonprofit. He's like, it's one outdoors, but you can show how it's one body of Christ outdoors, sharing that love. And so that plays in the back of my mind, as we're building and creating and how we can serve and help people. And um yeah, it's awesome, man. Every There's all kinds of trauma out there. But
Well,
yeah, and I selfishly I want to be able to build and design around, when we see a group of people or a particular segment that needs help, we want to be able to design and build around that to support that. And you can't do everything all the time. Like, that is the truth, because resources are limited. However, that approach of not being pigeonholed to one, space and serving on the nonprofit side, we're going to keep it that way for that reason.
yeah, no, that's fantastic, man. If somebody wants to get involved, whether they want to connect with you guys for your services or connect with you to offer services of some sort, even if it's just simple volunteering at an event, how can people
Yeah.
connect with you and Restoration Outdoors?
Shoot us an email. Info. Right now, we're not really even running a ton of email stuff at Restoration Outdoors per se. A lot of it is just build mode, but info@oneoutdoors.org is our primary email where we're filtering a lot of the projects and so forth. We'll actually have a specific program email here for Restoration Outdoors shortly, but in the immediate future, just info@oneoutdoors.org. Shoot us a message and we've got plenty of stuff going on.
Any specific needs that you guys are looking to fill right now?
Yeah, actually, our faster moving program is the Brave Together program. And I don't know if it's just regionally where we are in Washington State, primarily operating right now, that there's a lot of support needed for our law enforcement and veterans and first responders. But that program, we want to run that program on a monthly basis right now. Initially, we were going to do it quarterly, but there's been so much demand for it that, we're working hard to build that. So from both a fundraising standpoint as well as a volunteer standpoint, if someone has, an Airbnb, they're in a outdoor setting that might fit the needs of running one of these groups where we bring in, the clinical therapists, and we have a law enforcement officer that runs the group. Matt, awesome dude, standout guy. But yeah, so just strategic partners, I could summarize and say we're looking for strategic partners and opportunities to fundraise for that Brave Together program right now.
And what do you guys, when you're doing something monthly, what is it that you're typically doing once a month?
So we'll have between, on the low side, 8 or 10, usually between 8 to 15 different veterans and first responders will meet. We cook breakfast, we cook lunch, we also cook dinner, and it's good food. We'll have someone that knows how to cook in there cooking up some food, and then we've got the therapist working through some different exercises, eye movement, breathing activities, and then peer support. I've been to a couple of them, and you go, and obviously I'm not a veteran or a first responder, and I haven't been in law enforcement, but again, trauma. Working through some of these exercises myself. It stirs the pot, and it's things that, so we say, what does a group look like? Go, and we call it Brave Together because it's a brave thing to do, to go, talk about what's in your head or go through some of these exercises and actually learn how to, heal or even cope with some of the things that you have in your head. So you can anticipate at these days, it's a full day thing, good food for sure, but peer support, storytelling. But at the end of it, you're not alone. You're going through some of that stuff with good people around you.
Awesome, man. And then does Brave Together include any outdoor activities? I mean, just like, are you guys doing anything, like you said something about, having kayaks and fishing poles available and stuff like that? And it sounds like the day's already pretty packed, but
Yep.
Does that come into play as well?
Yep, it does. So this is a new program, and it's a fast growing program as of it's actually been around for a couple of years. The gentleman that was starting it, and he kind of started it as, he just saw the need and jumped in. And so we've formalized that now. And so we're actually looking at providing outdoor experiences in conjunction with these Brave Together group days. So yeah, we're going to open it up, do cookouts, wild game cookouts, fishing, maybe a day at the mountain. I mean, there's lots of different outdoor recreational things we can layer on. And that's how One Outdoors really can come alongside Restoration Outdoors is a partner in that space to provide some cool experiences. And yeah, it's fun stuff.
I mean, that's fantastic, man. I know at Protectors Peak, one of our biggest things that we're dealing with right now is our lack of capacity. Off the top of my head, let's see here. Just give me 1 second. I give you the exact numbers without lying to you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're helping about, just looking at our brochure, I mean, we're helping about 200, maybe a year, serving 200 people, during our retreat season, at least around probably the 80 to 100 first responders at these retreats, right? But then you add their spouses, you add our off-season stuff that we're doing. For example, when I say off-season, just this, in 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a group of folks going from my department. We we lost a supervisor in the line of duty this year, Sergeant Ken Solis, and Nate and Becky are putting together a weekend where his platoon mates that were on duty with him the day that he was killed can go spend some time resting and healing up at the lodge there, Protector's Peak, which that's a pretty relaxing, peaceful place to spend a couple of days. So
yes, it is.
That's the kind of things that we try to do. When I say capacity is our problem is, we've maxed out our capacity, right? We're getting to the point where, our marriage retreats were full in less than 24 hours after posting them this year. We don't want to turn people away, but now we're doing call off lists, which is, we don't like having to do it. It's a good and bad problem. We're busy. We're reaching folks, but we want to do more. Finding ways to do that's tough because we don't want to burn out Nate and Becky, who run it. Most of these things that, the retreats run them by themselves or do the bulk of the work. Right. And we definitely don't want to burn them out. Right. Cause that burnout can be a real thing. And then on top of that, there's resources and money. And that's where I had talked to you about the drift boat. And one of the things that we're planning on doing to increase capacity is offering, 1-day fishing trips to people that want to come out, first responders, veterans, maybe getting into some of the pastoral type stuff with pastors and church staff. But, just being able to offer a day on the river increases our capacity. We're talking about maybe doing backpacking trips, 1 or 2 night backpacking trips up to some of our alpine lakes and do some fishing up there and just camping. Nothing too strenuous that would be so difficult that a lot of people couldn't do it. But, and I think that's where, organizations like Restoration Outdoors and your program Brave Together, you guys are expanding the capacity. It's not Protector's Peak, but the mission is being accomplished. And I just think that that's incredible. So I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for serving our servants, serving my brothers and sisters, because it's not just Washington, it's a national need. Washington's definitely can be a hot spot because we have a lot of high population areas. And I don't know what it is about our region this year, but we just experienced another regional tragedy the day after Christmas here in North Idaho, in Shoshone County. Our sheriff's office was attacked by a single gunman, shot and wounded 2 women out in front of the sheriff's office, and he was shot and wounded a responding officer before being killed by one of the responding SWAT teams. But attack on our law enforcement personnel here in North Idaho. That's on the heels of this summer having the firefighters killed on Canfield Mountain here in Coeur d'Alene. Our supervisor being killed. USP just lost a female trooper in a very similar manner. She was killed on the side of the road, struck by a vehicle. So we're being struck by tragedy, and those are just the highlight ones that have made the news, right? There are daily interactions that
you don't hear about.
Daily interactions that law enforcement, the domestic violence calls, the go respond.
I can say with a heavy heart, but also a full heart, it's our veterans and first responders, man. They need all the support that they can get, and you nailed it. Serving those who serve, it's an honor to be able to do that even at a small scale. And it's our goal to do that at a large scale, and we're going to shoot for that because the need is there. And I hope and wish more people do it too, because we need all the competitors that we can get in that space. So I'll say that.
Yeah. I heard somebody one time talking about nonprofits and veterans, like, isn't there enough nonprofits out there serving veterans in the outdoors now? And you do have a lot. You have, I could think of probably 5 to 10 off the top of my head. There are a lot of nonprofits serving veterans. There's not a lot of nonprofits serving first responders, especially law enforcement. We haven't necessarily been popular in the public eye, the last 5 to 10 years. But thankfully, I feel like that's starting to turn, and you're starting to see more folks like yourself that want to reach out to law enforcement and say thank you and help us out. But as far as the veteran stuff, the answer to that guy had to that question was absolutely not. You got to think there's millions and millions of military veterans out there, right? And we just came off the heels of 2 decades of war. So all the nonprofits out there aren't even making a dent in trying to serve all of these veterans. We're never going to reach them all. So no, there can't be enough nonprofits and enough people out there trying to do what you're doing.
That's right. Yep. No, it's in the whole nonprofit, space. Sometimes it's it's, after being in Africa, I can say there's interesting parallels to what we're talking about, because I grew up seeing a lot of content and material about the need in Africa. And it's one of those things where you almost get desensitized to it, where you're like, oh, that's just the way it is. Right. And then you go there and you see it and you're like, need to do something about this. And I've felt the same way with Brave Together, our program, where, I've always grown up knowing that there's a need to support our veterans, and, we have in the capacity that we've been able to, but being involved in it and being willing to kind of look at the underbelly a little bit and say, how can I help out? That's a whole nother layer, but you'll be blessed immensely if you do, because you realize how many people you're helping. So, to your listeners out there who might not, whether they have or haven't donated to any veterans or first responders groups, I would definitely encourage you to just take a look, vet the organization, make sure they're doing a good job with their programs and so forth. Talk to somebody if you need to, but get involved in that space, because it's a great place to help and support.
Absolutely, man. And again, appreciate everything that you're doing over there. Looking forward to talking with you more and seeing how we can work together in that space. Hey, everybody. I just want to take a quick break to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. And to thank you today, I want to offer you a discount at 360 Sportsman. Head over to 360sportsman.org now and use promo code PF15. That is PF15 to get 15% off your subscription to any of their master classes listed on the website. You can learn anything over there to improve your skills at hunting, fishing, trapping, snowmobiling. There's going to be first aid classes up there. They've got all kinds of stuff. There's even a how to build a house class coming. So anything you want to learn related to the outdoors or just making yourself a more knowledgeable human being, head over to 360sportsman.org. Use promo code PF to get 15% off any of their master classes. Want to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. Kind of want to just, before we wrap it up, back off the nonprofit, man, I want to leave listeners that are still sticking around and listening to us with some tidbits of information, right? Because one of the things that is really important to me and the reasons I do this podcast is, on that note of being a veteran and a law enforcement officer or any other form of public service, personally, for the longest time until very recently, and sometimes I still feel this way, I feel stuck, right? And I love my career and I love what it's done for me and I love what I've been able to do for others through my service, but it takes a toll. It doesn't just take a toll on me, it takes a toll on my family. And when I say I feel stuck, it's not that I don't love what I do and that I still don't look forward to going to work most days, but if I want to do something that's less like, all right, hey, I've served my time, I've reached my capacity, which might be sooner than somebody else's, right? It might be longer than someone else's. Everyone has a capacity for how long they can do law enforcement. And I think a lot of that depends on their personal build, not physical, but like emotional and mental, spiritual. I think a lot of that has to do with where they work and how much they're exposed to on a regular basis. I happen to have worked in two very busy jurisdictions, but when I say stuck, I mean, like, I don't know. 2 years ago, I'd have told you, I don't know what else I could do. Right. I've been in the infantry. I'm a cop. If it doesn't involve fighting guns and driving cars recklessly, I don't know what else I would do in life. So that's why I started this podcast, because personally, the outdoors has made me realize, that I can do other things, right? If I want to go get a new career in the outdoors, or even better yet, outdoors or not, the coolest thing about living in America is you can start a business, right? And you don't need always to have a lot to start a business. So I want folks to feel inspired when they listen to this podcast, like, man, you know what? I could go start a business. I don't have to be stuck in whatever job, whether it's public service or a desk job that you just absolutely hate. I mean, I definitely would want to leave that job. So for you, my question would be, what are some of the things that lead you to successfully starting One Outdoors? What are some hot tips to growing a business? You're growing a family, you're growing a business, you're busy, but how are you doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's good stuff, man. I think on the business side, and maybe I'll attribute to some of this perspective to just playing baseball for so long, because, I mean, you fail so much more than you succeed in baseball and in a lot of sports too. So, athletes have some of that perspective, or if you're operating at a high speed, like you have in your life, that failure in it is inevitable. It's just a matter of, how often and how much and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, my encouragement would be to pick an arena, pick a space that you can fail a whole bunch in, and just at the end of the day, know that you're still going to be passionate about pursuing it and building relationships in that space. And, from A to B, it might look a little different and you might kind of bob and weave, but ultimately you got to pick something that you can continue to fail in and still wake up and put your boots on and go about your day.
Yeah, I like that on a couple of levels. One, early on in elk hunting, and I still feel this way about elk hunting. I've never failed so much at something and then just kept on doing it. I can't tell you how many. I've been hunting elk for 6 or 7 years, and I've put 3 in the freezer, right? 2 cows and a spike.
Awesome.
Elk hunting is not my strong suit yet. I'll get there someday. I've no doubt about it, right? You just got to get out there and keep learning, keep trying. But the point of that is, like, I'm still going to go elk hunting, right? I'm going to go elk hunting again next year and the year after that and the year after that. Like, it doesn't stop me from elk hunting just because I have more years than not where I don't succeed at getting an elk. And
yeah,
it's that same thing, right? I'm passionate about it. I love it. It's not just killing elk. It's the encounters with elk and the time with buddies, the time alone spent in the woods with God that keep me doing it. And then on the business aspect, it's, I could tell you right now, I've had the failed business, it didn't work out with the outfitting partners. And I just attribute that to, I try, not hating on those guys. It is what it is. I'm not going to spend time on my podcast ragging on other people, but I've heard it said, and I now understand what it means when somebody says the only ships in business that don't sail are partnerships. So that was a hard learned lesson. Didn't work out, and I've just been doing the bobbing and weaving. But I have an idea of where I want to be, and I know where I started. And every step along the way, I can honestly tell you when I look back, I'm like, okay, I might not know where I'm going to be next year, but I know why God put me through this last year. I know why he had me start and fail at an outfitting business. And it's hard to call it a failure. It was the business partnership didn't work out. I don't know if the business is successful or not. I haven't kept tabs on it, but I learned what being an outfitter means. And I can tell you, it means a whole bunch of work for not a lot of money. Most of the time, at least, especially when you're starting. But I learned what it takes. I learned what it means to be an outfitter. I learned a lot about handling clients. I learned that I like being in the woods with people, and that I can do it with strangers, and whether it's hunting or fishing. And what did God put me through that for? The significant heartache, and it was a significant heartache of when that didn't work out with my business partners. Well, fast forward to Protector's Peak, where I get to volunteer and take people fishing. And this year I'm going to take the guiding part of that and actually get to put that to use for God at Protector's Peak, where we're taking people on that drift boat, fly fishing on the river, right? Or scenic floats, whatever floats their boat, no pun intended, we can get it done on the river.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I was asking God, why, when I was going through it. Well, now I have my answer. It just kind of sucked waiting for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the case. I don't know what he's preparing me for right now in the future.
Yeah. And that's okay. I think there's growth that happens in the awkward periods too. It's just sometimes it's harder to see, but when you look back, you can humbly say, okay, thank you. That was making me a better person somehow. And that's also, that growth mindset is so important. Going back to, picking a space that you want to fail in, because you're going to, whether you like it or not. And it's going to be hard. The sacrifices of starting a business, I mean, that's the first thing. When you want to start a business, just you can have the best plan in the world, but there's things that happen that you can't foresee. Having a growth mindset allows you to handle those things with the clear head and look back on it and actually use it as fuel. I love that, man. I think you're doing a great job. It's an honor to know you and be on your podcast today. I'm excited to see where all this grows.
Yeah, man. Well, the honor's all mine. Thank you so much. It's exciting again to see. Yeah, exciting to see where this goes, but I'm always excited to see where my guest adventure's going, man. The fellow that I got to talk to last week, Taylor from 360 Sportsman. His episode will be coming out Friday. Um, which for folks that are listening, Friday will be in the new year. So the first Friday of the new year, get to listen to him, young guy in his mid 20s, just absolutely crushing his outdoor business. And, um, that's the kind of American dream that I love to see. I can't wait to see where he goes with it by the time he's in his mid 30s. I can't wait to see where One Outdoors goes and what you end up accomplishing over on their nonprofit side. I can't wait to get on sport fishing and learn all about the different sport fishing that I could go do around the world, especially if it involves a fly rod in beautiful places, which I'm sure it will. But yeah, that's the beauty of it, man, is getting to, and I think why I keep doing podcasting and why I pay to have these conversations with people is because I like making the connections and the networking and the relationships and getting to even just have this one little piece of the pie, or people's pie is not the right say, but this little be a little part of your ladder, right? Where I get to watch you grow in your business and your adventures. So, and maybe you've helped that just a little bit.
Well, it's awesome, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope there's some value that we have been able to provide for your listeners today. And like it's been a great conversation with you. I really appreciate it, and taking the time to invest and to see what we're doing with our companies. And at the end of the day, it's relationships, and so this is part of why we're doing what we do. And really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, right back at you. So just one more time, if somebody wants to reach out and get in touch and work with you at One Outdoors and/or Restoration Outdoors, just remind them of the best way to find you. And if you have social media, feel free to plug that as well.
Yeah, shoot us an email, info@oneoutdoors.org, and we'll get to you right away. We've got a pretty small team right now, so you're not going through a bunch of people for anything. And I look forward to getting to know anyone who might be interested in, pursuing a passion in the outdoors space, whether that be on the for-profit side, booking trips or making gear, anything of that nature, or on the nonprofit side, volunteering, getting involved there in any capacity. There's a lot to do, and we're looking forward to
Awesome. And before I let you go, can you tell us anything about the gear side of things? Because I forgot I had it on my notepad right here to ask you. What kind of gear are you talking about?
Oh, no problem. I'll share my favorite piece that we're working on right now. There's a couple guys in Montana who are making a 3-piece ultralight backcountry spinning rods. And, going back to my childhood, I grew up on a spinning rod. I love fly fishing too. I look at both as they're their own things. I don't know. People want to put you in a bucket. You're either a fly fisherman or you're a spinner, but I just see it as function I want to do. So anyway, but this rod's really designed for throw it in your hunting pack or your hiking pack, and when you get to an alpine lake, pull that thing out. So we didn't decide to go with a fly rod first because when the wind picks up, those are hard to cast, and if you need to eat some fish back there in the mountains, you want to choose something that's as reliable and as simple as possible. 3-piece ultralight backcountry fishing rod. We're working on that now. Really excited about that. It's all handcrafted. It's custom. So it's good stuff. But we'll have a lot of gear coming down the pipeline. So stay in it for the long haul, and you'll see.
All right. I love it, man. And as much as I love fly fishing, I 100% agree. If I'm going to rely on eating, sometimes that spinning rod might be a little bit more practical. And I could definitely see myself having one of those in my backpack for sure. So, and I'm sure
Sweet.
catching a fish on a little tiny breakdown packable rod is going to be fun, whether it's a fly or a spinning rod. So good deal, man. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And before I let everybody go, I just want to remind you guys, please, like I said, I still pay to do this. And if you want to help me at least break even someday in the future, like, subscribe, share, do all the things that podcasters ask you to do. Please do them for me. I don't care if you never listen to my show again, but if you're subscribed, that'll help me out. Take that back. Please listen to my show again. But share it, subscribe to it. All those things would be super helpful. Just a reminder, if you're listening to this and you have donated to the Drift Boat fundraiser for Protectors Peak, huge thank you for the support. We have raised over $5,000. I now have a drift boat in hand. If you've been paying attention, we were trying to raise $7,000 for that Protectors Peak drift boat to be donated to Protectors Peak and used solely for the purpose of serving our servants on the river. I still want to get to the $7,000 despite having the drift boat, and the reason being is that I do need to make some repairs to this used drift boat. Nothing significant. It's a good enough boat, but we do want to get those repairs made to the boat. I have to redo the electrical on the trailer. I have to paint the trailer, and we're going to try to see if some local businesses will work with us on that stuff. We want to get the Protectors Peak logo put on the boat, make it look nice for its maiden voyage this spring. We have to get some first aid equipment, which I think Response Ready Medical, who's one of the first sponsor of the show, is going to be donating the first aid kit, and then we'll need things like life vest and throw ropes and all the other safety stuff. So still want to hit that $7,000. If anything's left over after that, it'll get put into our general fishing fund or just the general Protectors Peak funds. But even once we get up and running with the boat, we're still going to need to do things like buy lots and lots of flies and leader and all those things, because I could tell you that fly fishing guides and or volunteer guides go through a ton of flies with novice fly fishermen. So, and that is not a knock on anybody coming to fish. I lose a lot of flies too. So we'll probably use some of this money that we get to stock up on flies for the summer, because it'll catch up to us. But that being said, appreciate the support that we've gotten so far. I did want to update everybody on that. If you haven't helped us out and you feel the inkling to help us out on that, you can reach out to me at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors on Instagram, Thomas Walton on Facebook. You can go to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors Facebook group, message me through those, and I can get you plugged in. You can donate through GoFundMe. You can send me the funds directly, or you can go to protectorspeak.com and donate directly to the website. I just ask, if you donate directly to the website, that you please let me know how much, just so we know how much it would to set aside out of our general funds for the boat project. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Again, Jake, thanks for coming on tonight. And until next time, go out there and start businesses, get out of the norm, and pursue your passions and freedom in the outdoors. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
And stopping.
Thanks again. And if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors. Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical.